guest, Belle, is a leader, she's a mentor, and she's a teacher. She is an energetic practitioner, a Reiki Master, a life coach, and she is also an author. She is passionate about supporting women to be the best versions of themselves and support the emergence of a more conscious and compassionate world. Cass's expertise is in mindset coaching, business to soul alignment, belief busting, spiritual entrepreneurs ready to be their true selves, expressing their true voice, living from their heart, owning their power, and accessing their authentic power to create a life aligned with their truth. And today, Cass is going to be presenting the art of self-belief and mindset transformation. Welcome, Cass, and thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, thank you. I'm really pleased to be here, actually.
Oh, good. I'm so pleased. Tell me a little bit about why we need all this self-belief and how we can, transform our mindset.
Well, self-belief is a really interesting concept because we always believe that we have to believe in ourselves so totally that we have true confidence and that we have complete control of our life. But I think we've blown this idea completely out of proportion. So we have this fail or pass mark based in self-belief, and it's completely different thought process. There are so many aspects of self-belief, and because self-belief actually helps you with your mindset transformation, really, it helps with all sorts of transformation, that we get caught up with this idea and we allow ourselves to pretty much fail before we even begin. So for me, self-belief is something that we build. It's very similar to confidence, but it's a little bit different. Many of us think that if we're really confident, it must mean it's because we believe in ourselves so totally. And we know that this isn't true. So many businesswomen, so many women really, they have confidence in areas or aspects of their life, but they wouldn't call themselves a confident person. Or they might use self-confidence as a little bit of a barrier to other people. So I find the concept of self-belief and confidence very, very interesting because we all have a different take on exactly what it all means to each other. So I thought of what I might do today is just go through a little bit of what self-belief or how you can build self-belief, because self-belief, it will help you transform your mindset. It will help transform your life. And it will also help to transform the way that you basically create your future, which is something that I'm completely passionate about with, well, for all women really. So self-belief, I want people to really think about it for a second and ask themselves the question, do I actually know who I am? And that's like a big creation question, and I recognize that. But if we understand who we truly are, we actually can start then supporting ourselves in actuality rather than in how we perceive we should be holding ourselves or perceive that we're building ourselves, so that we can fit into a mold made by our family or by society or by our peers or our colleagues. So by knowing yourself, and I don't mean just what are all my good aspects, I also mean all the little things that we don't like showing other people, or the little things that we think that we should not hold on to because it might be petty, or it might be not spiritual, or it might not be, what can I say? It might not be a nice aspect, basically, of ourselves, but it's still part of us. And if we try to push that down, what we're doing is we're creating a barrier between our self-belief, because then we know that we're not actually, we're creating a chasm basically, between our self-belief and who we truly are. When we hold our self-belief and we know that, you know what, I might not actually be the nicest person when it comes to this sort of thing, or I know that I can't deal with this particular item, or I can't do this, we actually allow ourselves to go, I can take on a challenge, but I know that I'm going to need help here, and I know that I'm going to need help here. So the art of self-belief is actually about making building blocks, creating building blocks of, this is what I know, this is who I know I am, this is what I know I can do, this is what I know I can't do, so therefore I need help in this space, or I won't take on this particular project, or I can do something different, which is really interesting. When you start knowing yourself, then you're going to come up against those little icky bits, and you have to start finding compassion for yourself as well. Because if you don't have compassion, you can't love yourself. If you can't love yourself, you can't believe that you are a worthy being of whatever it is that you're going to go for. So transformation and mindset, it's all about the inner working, but it's about the inner working of growth and challenge and creating something new. Self-belief actually supports that transformation by understanding who I am, the self-compassion that I hold, and recognizing that that is my alignment at this point in time. However, I can shift that alignment to create or to be able to sit into the challenge that I'm providing myself so that I can grow. So it's a very multifaceted item or understanding or belief system of self-belief. But when you start understanding who you are at the very start, that's when things can change. Now, many of us believe that that confidence will either come naturally or it won't. We will either do things really well or we won't. We might have to work a little bit harder, or we just might even give up. But between self-belief and self-confidence, it's very different, because you can hold self-belief within yourself. You can strengthen that and still not be totally confident in your actions, or totally confident that you may be able to work in a certain way. You might not be able to hold that confidence to do a certain job. But if you have self-belief, it will allow you to know that you can work on that you can build that you can challenge yourself, that you can grow yourself, that you can bring in tools and build the confidence itself. But if you don't have the self-belief in the first place, you're never going to be able to build that self-confidence, and you're always going to get tripped up with triggers of believing, I'm not good enough, I'm just putting on a mask and everybody's going to find out that I'm not this person. It's going to trigger the imposter syndrome. It's going to trigger all these other wonderful things that so many women get caught up, especially in business, or with even in the corporate world, government world, that sort of thing. We get caught up with it because we've been so programmed to be confident rather than to believe in us as we are, and to accept ourselves at the same time. So we're always told that we can grow, we can be better, we can do this, we can do that, but we're never told just to accept ourselves as we are. Growth comes later. Acceptance is the main leg, I suppose, of self-belief, because if you have acceptance, then you can move forward. So it's an interesting subject, and I know that I go around and ramble a little bit, because I find every single woman has a different perspective of self-belief, and it's usually based in what they've been told is what they're supposed to have, whether it's a format of feminism, or if it's a format of toughness within the workplace, or anything along those lines. We're told that we have to be a certain way. And it erodes on our self-beliefs, because our belief system comes from our society, it comes from our family, it comes from all the outside influences. And we're told and we're taught really to stop looking inwards and stop accepting who we are, and to be better, to be better, to be better, to be better in every single aspect. So for self-belief, when you have that self-belief, when you have that acceptance of who you are, because you know who you are and you hold compassion for who you are, and it works the other way as well, understanding and accepting your strengths, understanding and accepting that you shine, that you can rise to certain occasions, that you can do all the things that you can do. You have the power in different areas and that you own those skills. Then once you have all of that, that is what actually builds your self-belief. It's not so much about other people telling you that, oh no, you're really good at this, and so therefore you can do this. No. We don't build self-belief in ways of providing ourselves with exercises to strengthen our self-belief. We actually provide ourselves with self-belief by going inwards and accepting who we are and understanding and having compassion for who we are as well. So it's very interesting.
Absolutely. Yes, I agree. And as on a personal level or a business level, self-belief is, if we don't believe in ourselves, then others won't believe in us. And it's hard if you don't have the right mindset. And yes, we need to do that internal work to be able to draw out from ourselves the things that will help us in business.
Definitely. And what I find really interesting is with the concept of self-belief is that we're so hardwired to look at what we don't have. And when we can start looking back inwards and actually acknowledging what we do have, acknowledging how we can do things, acknowledging our strengths, acknowledging our skills, acknowledging our weaknesses, by bringing all that back into the fore, that's when we can actually start making informed decisions. We know what we're capable of and what we're not capable of. So therefore, we're going to make an informed decision. We can provide a decision on, yes, I'm going to take on this project, but I'm also going to take on this employee because they can fill the gap. And that builds confidence. Confidence is about doing. Self-belief is all about being. And I think that's a really big distinction.
Yes, totally agree. I mean, a lot of us we don't be, we do.
Exactly. We are so taught that the more that you do, the busier that you are, well, the more important you must be.
No, not true. Not true at all.
That's right. And when you can have that self-belief and you use that self-belief to acknowledge who you are and then build into your self-confidence, that's when the transformations really start happening. But it all starts with that little nucleus within ourselves. Just like when we're born, we have that little spark of energy, we have that growth. It's exactly the same thing. So the more that we can know who we are and trust who we are and support who we are, the more that we can gain our confidence and make informed decisions, and the more that we can then be co-creators or creators of our life. And that's when the transformation really starts happening, because it hits every single part of our life. Not only do we start building our confidence, we also build our boundaries. We start going, yes, no, not yet. That's powerful, especially for women when we've been taught to sit in the background. And, I don't know about you, but I've got a much older father, and I learned that, girls go to secretary school and then they go home and get married, have kids, and cook for the rest of their life. So that's it, So we're sort of being pushed into that space. And I think that's one of the reasons why I love working with women so much, is to actually help them break out of that expectation of responsibility that they never had to take on in the first place, and build that self-belief so that they can then start creating the transformation that they want to see in their life. Because transformation doesn't come just out of the blue. It'd be fantastic to win lotto and just, oh, my world is transformed. But it doesn't always happen like that. And if you don't have that right self-belief, if you don't have that mindset, everything will just turn out exactly the same.
Yep, day in and day out. And, we really need to work on ourselves as humans,
Mhm.
regardless of gender, that, you know, we can't give outwards what we don't feel inwards.
Definitely, definitely. And could you, I think everybody's been in a position similar at some point where they might have seen a really good friend, or maybe it was a colleague that they thought was okay, and maybe they trained them, whatever it might be, and then they got the big job and they're sitting back going, why? Why? Oh, I'm just as good. Well, if you were just as good, why didn't you put your hand up? Why didn't you make the steps? Why didn't you allow yourself the opportunity to transform your career or transform your life, whatever it might be? Because that's all it is. Transformation is change, but it's change for the better normally. And that's where you've really got to look at. So one person will believe in themselves and have the confidence to go for it, and another person will sit back and going, well, I don't know.
Yep, that's true. I mean, I used to work for a government law enforcement agency, and people that had started the same time I did got promoted, and I couldn't understand why. I was, all out there and doing all the right things, doing all the work and everything, but I wasn't confident, and it showed, and that's why I didn't get the promotions, because when it came time for the interview, I just wasn't confident. And once I started to show confidence, that's when I started getting promotions.
That's it. But you wouldn't have had the confidence if you hadn't have started believing that you were capable of the job and you needed to find a way to make it happen.
Mm, absolutely.
And that's where it all comes. I've worked in government law enforcement as well, so I definitely understand some of the the interesting characteristics and barriers that can come up. And it really is, and I think for a lot of spiritual people or a lot of energetic people, they do have that barrier of authenticity as well. So, and when they are not in alignment with their own self-belief of what they expect for themselves, that is a major issue as well. And we see it all the time. But again, that's where you come back to know yourself, accept yourself, be compassionate with yourself, and then allow yourself to live in that space.
Absolutely, Cass. Thank you so much for sharing. Where can people find you if they want to learn more or to work with you?
Well, they can find me on Facebook at Belle Coaching, or they can find me on my website at www.bellecoaching.au. I'm on Instagram and all the things, TikTok, etc., but Facebook is always best. So definitely contact me.
Perfect. I've put the links into the chat so people can click on them and reach out to you. And I want to thank you so much for joining me today and for sharing your thoughts and your wisdom with us all. Self-belief really is something a lot of us lack, and so it's something that we have to learn to find within ourselves. And having someone like you that can help us do that is always of great benefit.
Thank you so much. Have a fantastic day. Thank you for having me, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Cass. Bye-bye.
Bye.